Hi.
Hi.
What time is it?
Fika time.
Fika time. Fika talk time. So I'm going to talk a little bit, and then Audrey's going to share a fun fact about Sweden. But first, see her handiwork? This is our chocolates. Oh, and the painting behind us, Audrey did. So, in case you're wondering. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, recently you've seen some articles, maybe, about some tips that people have given for people who have lost their jobs. And one tip was to volunteer. And honestly, when I first saw that tip, I kind of was like, huh, really? So people who have lost their jobs should volunteer? Or in this hard economy, we should volunteer and not work harder. And then I realized that was how I started my business, through volunteer work. So I'll talk about that. But first, I have a quick rundown of ideas for what you could do to volunteer to sharpen your skills. I'm not talking about like walking dog volunteering. I'm talking about like real, work volunteering. And I think that the point of that is to get involved, keep yourself busy, build up your network, but then also to build a book of business. And so it doesn't matter if you are doing the work for free. You can still say that was a client. And that's kind of how I started my job or company. So here are my tips for you. So the Red Cross has options for you to volunteer, not just like on the field. You could do disaster PR. So whenever there's a disaster or a crisis, they are needing helpers, whether that's PR or fundraising even. And so if you go to that website, you'll be directed to lots of different things that might fit your capabilities. And also we'll share links to this in the post. Also, there's crisistextline.org. That's crisis counseling, and that's like counseling. So for like counselors. So we would just tell you to look into that if you want to help people through a crisis. I think normally during a disaster, there's worried people. So if you want to help them and put your empathy skills into action, that's another way to do it. And then the last thing, just to be kind of like totally out of the sphere of what we do at Veracity, is the AICPA, which is the American Institute of CPAs. So that's accounting. So you could actually go to that website if you have accounting experience and see if you can volunteer on a consultant basis. And I think that's more for like director level. But back to the story about how we started our company, and you'll hear about this later. It was through volunteer work. So my first client was SEM PDX, which is a trade group, and my husband was on the board, so that's Search Engine Marketers of Portland. They reached out to him, I guess, maybe it was his idea, and said, hey, would you PR this event for free? Well, they didn't say for free, but would you help? It's a nonprofit. Would you help us out? And I was kind of in between. I was done with real estate, so I was in between work. And I said, okay, it's an event. Yeah, I think I can do that in my sleep. But honestly, I kind of just wanted to see if I still had my chops, just to see if I could still do it.
What are chops?
So my chops, my skills, just to see.
Your chops.
Yeah. I just wanted to see if I could do it, and I could. So I did it so that the next year they wanted to hire me, which was great. And so then essentially that was my first client. And from there it opened doors because it was a trade group. So doors were opened to, network and build my business. And we still get a lot of leads from that group. So we're very fortunate there. And now I'm just going to end with, Audrey has a fun fact to share about Sweden.
Okay, so did you know that Sweden isn't just called Sweden, it's called the Kingdom of Sweden? And I thought it was cool because maybe some people will start calling it the Kingdom of Sweden, not just Sweden.
Perfect. And maybe next time you can tell us why it's called the Kingdom of Sweden.
Maybe.